now looking back, it makes me so sad though, because by the time my kids were downstairs unwrapping their presents, I was like already 2 shots in. I wasn't even present for what are supposed to be some of the best memories of my kids' childhood. And that's heartbreaking.
I wanted to be an active part of my solution rather than wait for it to hit me and then wonder what the hell happened. And so I made sure I had a plan.
It's just appreciating a new normal and creating new traditions. So it does. It gets better, but things happen. Things have to come up and you have to address them. So I want to give people hope. It does get easier, and the new traditions are great.
The last 2 Christmases for me as a dad, like it gives me goosebumps even saying this, has been magic. And I know I missed out on so much with my 2 gorgeous little amazing children when they were younger. I don't remember a lot of that stuff because quite frankly, I was the same way.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and personal growth is the key to loving your sober life. We're your hosts, Julie Miller and Steve Knapp. Join us in conversations with people from all over the globe about how you can thrive, not just survive, in a life without alcohol.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here with us today. To our listeners, thanks for hanging out. We're also here with Kristian, Nylund, and Janice Dowd. They're going to be here talking about the holidays and how to get through the holidays without drinking and actually maybe even enjoy them without alcohol. So we're going to dig into this today. So yeah, we'll have you guys introduce yourselves. Janice, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Well, I go by Janice Johnson Dowd, the whole name. I am a retired social worker, mother of 4. I specialize in family and addictions. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm comfortable with that term. 12 years sober, and very grateful for that. Also have a website, and I'm excited about this topic because I already have 2 blog articles related to the topic of drinking and the holidays, or how to tell family and friends. And I have 2 more coming out that will have been released by the time we play this. But my crowning achievement, or my biggest joy, is my book, Rebuilding Relationships in Recovery. It's a guide that it's really directed more towards the person in recovery who is struggling to repair relationships with their family and friends. And it's based on both my personal and my professional experience. So
amazing. Some really excellent resources. And listeners, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. We'll have links so you can follow Janice, check out her blog, check out her book, all of that good stuff. So keep an eye on the show notes down there. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, Janice. It's great to meet
one
you.
other thing, my daughter and I just introduced a podcast. We've got like 4 or 5 episodes. It's called Recovering Relationships. It is very raw and personal about what it takes to rebuild trust and respect in relationships.
Incredible.
Really cool.
Okay. Well, we will make sure you send me links for all of that stuff and we'll get it all included. That is so important, and it's a topic that doesn't get talked about enough. So yeah, that's wonderful. I'm excited for you. Congratulations on starting a podcast.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, and then we're going to have Kristian introduce himself. How are you tonight?
Doing great. It's so fun to connect with people I've never met before, but that's the beauty of the Instagram sober community. And I'm Kristian Nylund. I live in Spokane, Washington. I'm a dad. I've got 2 daughters. They're 10 and 8, and I'm an airline pilot. I started my sobriety journey on January 1st of 2023. So I'm coming up on 3 years, right behind Julie and Steve here. But awesome. I'm one that's so passionate about this topic, you guys. I love chatting about this. I love hearing people's stories. I love featuring people who are going through it. And just sharing my own story. I started Sober Identity, which is a page on Instagram. I'm branching out into something I'm really excited about, which is going to go directly to pilots. It's called Flight Path Confidential. There's a huge gap in the aviation community where if you have someone who's struggling, say with alcohol addiction or mental health, there's the huge gap between just staying silent on it versus reporting to either an employer, the FAA, any of the programs that are out there. They're not truly confidential. So I'm building a platform that is completely confidential. So if there's any pilots who happen to tune into this show, reach out to me, go to my website, Flight Path Confidential, and check it out. It's going to be a really good tool for those people who are struggling and afraid to reach out. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Thanks for having me.
I love that you are filling that need and that void of confidentiality in a space where I would have to believe there is a lot of pressure to stay silent and deal with it on your own because of the fear that revolves around maybe losing your job, or that's probably the biggest fear of all of them. But still, it's great that you're stepping up and being a voice for that community. So I applaud you for that, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks. I was trying to just rack my brain for years on like, how can I make this happen? And it's the confidentiality piece is what was really holding a roadblock for me of like, how do I figure this out? How does that work? And so I've been able to come up with a system that, initially I think is going to work really well. And hopefully guys and gals aren't too hesitant to reach out because it is very confidential. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's just sprouting right now. So it's very new, but I'm working on it daily and it just feels great to be able to build something like that for people.
Super cool.
Amazing. We meet the coolest people here who do the coolest things. And I love that we get to meet all of you. And, there's so many specialized, focused areas based on our own experience. And if there's one thing we know about the recovery world, whether it's, from AA and recovery coaching and all of the other pieces here, our experience and being willing to share that with other people, the people who need to hear it, is the most powerful thing we can do. So yeah, really excited for both of you to be here. Really looking forward to digging into this topic. So, the holidays are a huge challenge to a lot of our listeners. Whether you've been sober for years or you're just starting out, you're going to be facing things like financial stress, family gatherings, work parties, and then just like the general exhaustion from the holiday hustle. And it feels overwhelming without using alcohol to dull all of the sharp emotions that come up during the holidays. So we are going to chat about it. And as per the usual, there's no rules here. There's no expectations. We're just going to dig into what the holidays used to look like, what they look like now, and how we got from A to B with some tools and tips and experiences that we can share with our listeners so that they can walk away feeling like they've got some power in this situation. So, yeah, I would love to start out with hearing from you. What role did alcohol play before you quit drinking? What did that look like for you? What was that experience like? And then we can start digging into how we make the switch to doing this without alcohol.
To answer this, it was a free-for-all. The holidays for me back in the day, I looked forward to them a lot because for me, it gave me an excuse to drink and to drink early and to drink as much as I wanted.
It was
And
permission,
so
wasn't it?
it was total permission. It was a total green light. And I'm laughing now just thinking about it, because it was that for me each time. And it was the main focus, right? That was the only thing that I would focus on was like, awesome. Like, all right, and certainly when you're with your family and it's the holidays, it feels good. Everything feels good. But I know for a fact, like I always valued the drink, and even people in my family, like my dad, he wouldn't bat an eye if we start cracking beers at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., whatever. Like he would join in. And then on top of that, like I would be able to connect with a lot of my family members that were really hard to connect with, right? They wouldn't open up. They're very guarded, sheltered, but you get a couple beers in these people and all of a sudden they're telling you stories you never heard before, or they're just that much more loving. It's just such a more pleasant experience. I hate to say it, but it's so true. And so for me, that was always a massive highlight, but it was strictly because it was my number one focus. And then I didn't have to hide anything. It was like awesome. Like now we can just totally make this such a fun experience, and no one's going to care that I've had this much to drink. So that was kind of my intro to that.
Hmm. Well, I would say for myself, and by the way, my dogs are coming around me. So every now and then you're going to see me reach for them or one will jump into my lap. But I didn't start drinking till later in life, until about my 40s. So early Christmases were kind of picture book, fake, but picture book. And then, but as I started drinking in my 40s, and I drank for about 10 years before I went to treatment, it just got the holiday evolved more, Christmas in particular, more and more around drinking and drinking early in the day. I remember those last couple of Christmases, like you wake up and my thought was, the kids would run down and find what Santa brought them. But my next thought was, okay, let's start the breakfast rolls and you can pour your first vodka. Cause I thought that perhaps no one could smell that I was drinking vodka in my Diet Coke, and I could start sipping alcohol and, sipped all the way through the day, thought that no one caught on, but of course they did. And then I too used alcohol to ease the social anxiety or the frustration or, those times of feeling overwhelmed. Made lots of excuses. I'm entitled to this. The kids are loud. The house is a mess. My mom is driving me crazy. A glass of wine is going to help, just
Mm-hmm.
a holiday was a reason to fuel the drinking.
Julie,
Definitely.
when she said picture book fake, you smiled ear to ear, and I know
Yeah.
you can relate to that one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I started drinking more heavily in my 30s, but by then my oldest was 10. So, I had the first 10 years or so of motherhood and the picture perfect everything. And then the alcohol started creeping in my 30s, but same. And I remember like my husband and I kind of took it upon ourselves to be the ones who brought the alcohol to Thanksgiving dinner. And, so we would bring the wine, the big, huge bottles of wine. And I remember like, so my husband doesn't drink a lot. My parents don't drink a lot. I was the only real big drinker. But again, like you've both said, it became acceptable to start early, right?
Mhm.
And I remember like watching the bottles and how much people were having and being like, is there enough? Is there going to be enough for me to like drink? And I was like so hyper aware of how much wine was left in those bottles, which is like, it's embarrassing to talk about now, but that's the kind of stuff that my mind was focused on at these family gatherings. I wasn't focused on my kids or my parents or spending quality time together and, sharing stories and sharing a meal. Everything revolved around the drinking. And like, could I get up mid dinner and go sneak over to the bar and pour another glass of wine? Would anyone notice why I was there? And I remember one time I was pouring another glass, yet another glass. And my brother walked in and he's like, another one? And I'm like, yeah, it's Thanksgiving. And I remember waking up the next day just humiliated because I know I made a fool of myself. And that was a terrible feeling too. But yeah, it got to the point where like Kristian said, that's all I thought about. My kids would wake up on Christmas morning and, we would, I would always be awake before them. So I would pour myself a coffee and pour a shot of whatever, Irish cream or something in that. And I'm like, it's Christmas. I get to start at 6 a.m. Now looking back, it makes me so sad though, because by the time my kids were downstairs unwrapping their presents, I was like already 2 shots in. I wasn't even present for what are supposed to be some of the best memories of my kids' childhood. And
Isn't
that's
it?
heartbreaking.
Isn't it when you look back and you're like, I can't believe I was more excited about having the drink in the morning than I was about actual Christmas and like watching the kids open the presents and everything else? You're just like, I'll take that first drink and I'll finally be able to relax myself through this.
Mhm.
Very similar story. I tried to make it fun every once in a while. Like you'd bring the eggnog and you'd have the rum or the spiced whiskey or something like that. So you could mix those two, and you put some cinnamon on it or whatever it is, just to make it look fancy. So I could have the drink and then share that with everyone. It was part of the celebration. It was part of the event. That was, like Kristian said, the green light to show up, and it was also the green light to be tipsy in the evening or later on in the day, because it was Christmas and it was a celebration. And if you were a little bit 2 or 3 or 4, me 5 or 6 or 7 sheets to the wind, it was just like, okay, Steve gets a couple sheets to the wind on a holiday. It's not all the time. It's so easy to just say it was just for that day, and really in the end, it wasn't always just the holidays. It was just one of those many excuses that I used to be excited about drinking. So
Mhm.
I definitely tried to make it fun. I tried to make it enjoyable for other people so I would feel comfortable. I didn't know this at the time, but I mean, it made me feel comfortable drinking. I'd also look at the bottles of wine, because if one was near the bottom, I would drink out of the other one that had more in it. So I wasn't the one who finished off the bottle. Like, that's how self-conscious I was about the whole thing.
Right.
And it's like you said, you're like eyeing up booze levels and how much I drank versus other people drank. And yeah, I did it to ease whatever social anxiety existed, but I ended up eventually getting so far ahead of it that it felt like I was doing myself a favor. And in the end, yeah, I know we're gonna get into this, but I could maybe roll into it. My first sober Christmas, my first sober Thanksgiving, when I was used to having that friend there to help me escape this discomfort that I didn't know that I was gonna have when I got there. The first year wasn't the most pleasant. It was uncomfortable. It was also better, even though it was uncomfortable. I got to see it for what it was. I got to see what I liked. I got to see what I didn't like, instead of just kind of like disappearing into it.
Mhm.
And
And
not feel guilty the next day.
yeah, I mean, I
That's
felt phenomenal the
huge.
next morning, and then everyone
Mhm.
else is like dragging ass, and I'm
Yeah.
up with the kids, and I'm having fun with the kids playing with their new toys, and I was like, wow, this is super cool. I kind of
Mhm.
like this. This is one of the cool parts about what this experience is like. But it came with the good, and it came with the perceived bad. I
Mhm.
the that social awkwardness, the one that I feared so much when I was going into it, worrying about everyone else is drinking. What the heck am I going to do? And like that whole litany of how am I going to prepare for this thing that I have no idea what's going to happen and how I'm going to feel.
Mhm.
And it didn't turn out near as bad as what I thought it was going to be.
No. Yeah, so that's absolutely kind of where we're headed next. Do you guys want to share a little bit about what your first holiday season was like without alcohol? Like the good, the bad, and the ugly. But let's get
Yeah.
into it a little bit.
All right, I'll jump in first on this
Yeah.
one. I got sober in February. So by the time Thanksgiving and Christmas rolled around, I feel like I had some pretty solid sobriety skills. It doesn't mean that I wasn't nervous, because I was. I went from treatment to a halfway house. I still wasn't living like full time with my family. So I had a lot of concerns and apprehensions, but I think what got me through it was I'd already established a 12-step group in my hometown. Like, I had a home group in Birmingham, Alabama, and a home group in Daphne, Alabama. And my home group in Daphne is just phenomenal. I mean, you can go hang out there all day on any holiday. But they had, formal meetings still at their regular times. They have 3 meetings a day. So I relied upon that. I told my family ahead of time, listen, at 11:30, I'm going to daytimers. So I know we'll get up early. Some of the kids were still young. I just planned ahead for it. And that was my kind of like my island, my oasis, knowing that I could get out to my people. And it was a bit of white knuckling it in a sense of like, okay, get through this. My relationships with my kids and my now ex-husband was not good. So it was really superficial. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it wasn't bad in the sense I wasn't triggered to drink. I can't, it's been so long. I don't remember if I had cravings. I know there have been holidays where I have had cravings, but I just pushed through it. And I think it was having that planning ahead, having some good foundational skills. My program's very 12-step based, which is just one way to get sober, but it's a really good support system for me. So I pushed through it. The first one was hard, pushed through it. Each year it gets easier, but you gotta watch out for those little surprise cravings.
Hmm. I think that white knuckling, like at some point, you kind of just have to expect that you're going to be white knuckling it through part of those first holidays, and that's
Mhm,
okay. Um, from where I remember being so frustrated, thinking like, if this is what holidays are going to be like for the rest of my life, this is awful. And so, anyone who's headed into their first holiday season and they're starting to worry about that, I just want to make sure to all of our listeners, it's not like that forever. The first one is awkward, it's uncomfortable, you're probably going to think about the alcohol a lot. It won't always be that way.
mhm,
And I like what you're talking about, Janice. So you went to treatment, you went to a residential. That means your family must have known like that you were sober, that you weren't drinking, that you'd been fighting this battle. When I went into the holidays, I was 2 months sober and I didn't go to treatment and I didn't say a word to my parents or siblings or anything about what I was doing. So I walked into Christmas or Thanksgiving, I guess was first. Nobody had a clue that I wasn't going to be drinking, that I was in, like, it was a surprise. So I didn't have that added layer of accountability. Everybody was expecting me to be drinking. Whereas it sounds like for you, everybody knew you weren't going to be drinking,
mhm,
which are just, they're two different versions of the same challenge. But I remember going in thinking, what am I going to say to everybody when I'm not drinking? What am I going to tell them? And I remember being so worried about it. And I was like, okay, is this the moment when I have to tell my parents that I've quit drinking and I'm going to announce it at the dinner table at Thanksgiving in front of like my uncle and my aunt? And I was like working myself up so much because I knew somebody was going to notice. Nobody said a word. I never had to explain anything. I didn't drink. They never asked and got through the night. So I had just worked myself up into so much worry about what it was going to look like, and it turned out to be unnecessary. And I think we do that, right, about a lot of different things. But to those of our listeners that feel like they're there, remember that you don't know what it's going to look like. So give yourself a chance to imagine it going really well too, not
mhm.
just all the bad. What about you, Kristian? What was your first sober holiday season like?
Yeah, so you guys touched on a lot of very important points here. Steve talked about how much mental bandwidth we carry as drinkers, and anybody who is a drinker, think of all the attention, all the anxiety you're carrying with everything you're paying attention to. Strictly because you're paying attention to how much is in that bottle. Oh, I'm going to drink out of this other bottle because it's a little bit higher. Ooh, we're running out of booze. I mean, you are spinning in your head constantly, right? So there's going to have to be a level of discomfort here. The first time you go to a holiday party or your first holiday event, and you're not going to drink, this is your first step. It is not going to be easy. And the reason being, just like I described, you're wired to think
Mhm,
about booze all the time. And whatever you focus on, you're going to see. So if you focus on the fact that I don't get to drink today and it's going to suck, guess what? You're going to have a terrible time every
It's
time. And this
probably
was
gonna
my
suck.
experience. It's going to suck. It's really going to suck. And for me, it sucked because A, I was focusing on that. B, I now believed in my soul at the time that I'm not going to be able to enjoy myself anymore in these social environments. We all know that's a crock of shit because it's what we think like removing alcohol, we see it as a negative. If you see things as negatives, and I guarantee tomorrow when you wake up, just start looking at everything in your house and the people around you and just start telling yourself that this is so annoying. I don't like that I don't have this in my house. It's a mess. The weather sucks outside. I guarantee your mood's going to plummet within a half an hour. It's the same thing with this, same concept, you guys. And so if you go in, yes, acknowledge this is going to be new for me. And new things for a lot of people are fearful. It's fear that really stops most from getting sober in the first place, because we don't know how to operate when we show up. If someone asks me what to drink, what do I say? What do I do? How do I be social? These are the tools that you have to build over time. But for me, the first time is I sat in the discomfort. I made sure to bring the drink you're going to have. So there's no discussion of like, can I get you something to drink? No, I have my own. Or if you didn't bring anything, ask, oh, I'll take a water, you have a club soda, whatever. And they're like, oh, you're not drinking today. Just say, yeah, I'm taking a break or whatever. Come up with just a trigger point and then have an answer right away. So there's no discussion. And if you get to a point where you're in the wrong crowd, where they are really giving you a lot of crap for not drinking, guess what? You can just leave.
You can go.
It's that easy. And I empower you to do that. Walk out the door. Don't say a damn thing to anybody. Even if you're frustrated and mad, like let that
Irish
stuff out.
exit. Irish exit.
And just say peace. And it's easier said than done, because certainly if it's your family and you're like, they're going to see that you've left if it's not a big group. But you are allowed to set your own boundaries. And guess what? You're allowed to empower yourself to not drink anymore. And there's going to be hurdles everywhere, but get past that first one and give it a shot. And you're going to stumble, you're going to fall over in your brain of like, oh, wow, I thought this was going to be easy. And it's not. This is part of the process. It's just like getting in shape. If it was easy, we'd all be in shape and we'd be happy as can be, but it's hard. Every rep is hard. So think of this first one. This is your first rep at this, and give yourself grace.
Yeah, there's like the warrior mentality too, right? It's okay that it's hard. It's okay that you have to fight. You get to go in and you get to win it. And that feels amazing. And that goes for any situation, any craving or urge to drink. But that warrior mentality is really powerful, where you get to fight the battle and you get to come out on top. And that feels freaking amazing. And I remember sitting there at the Thanksgiving table with all of my family around us. And I remember just thinking, I'm going to be so glad when I wake up tomorrow and I'm sober. I'm going to be so glad when I wake up tomorrow and I'm sober. Like I was just repeating it in my head, when I'm watching everybody else around me drink their wine. And it's so funny because I was watching them all drink their wine with dinner and I'm like, oh, I'm so left out. And like it was cheap wine. It wasn't even good wine. And like I didn't want half a glass of wine like my parents were having. I wanted like the bottle. There's no part of me that was going to enjoy having one little half a glass of cheap wine with Thanksgiving and feel like suddenly I wasn't left out. Like it had nothing to do with that part of the experience. But our brains are like, oh, look, you're missing out on this experience and the wine with the dinner and whatever. Like it's not about that at all. It's just one more way for that voice in your head to try to trick you into thinking that drinking would be better. FOMO was real for me because I felt like I was missing out, and nobody else was drinking a lot, right? I was lucky in that I wasn't surrounded by huge drinkers, but I still felt like I was missing out on something special, and that was
So
tough.
I'm gonna piggyback on this one. Janice, you said, I think you said you got sober in February. And I got sober in March. So I had some social events underneath my belt, some barbecues. I'm Canadian living in the US, but I got sober when I was still in Canada. So our Thanksgiving is earlier there. And so I had gone through Thanksgiving and my family knew, and my wife at the time, her family knew as well. So everyone was very conscious and aware of what I was working through. They were all super polite about it. Nobody was ever gave me a hard time. Nobody was a pain in the butt. And I got to Christmas, and and Julia vouch for this. I started thinking about what Christmas was going to be like at the end of October. Like I started looking at, okay, like what were the things that I liked about Christmas? What were the things that I didn't like about Christmas? What was I worried about? What was I not worried about? How was I going to prepare for this? What are the feelings that I'm feeling right now? And why am I like really not looking forward to this thing that's supposed to be good? Like what are my past experiences that are giving me this hesitation to not enjoy this event? Like I took time and I had tears about it because there was some things that I really didn't like, and there was hurt that I had that surrounded that event. And I wanted to try and have a good Christmas. I wanted the experience to be good. And so I took the time prior to investigate where my anxiety was coming from. And then because I was going to meetings, I had AA and some other recovery, like Julie and I host a recovery meeting on Monday nights. And so I had a community like that too. So I had some community behind me and some recovery behind me that I knew if I had a problem, I had enough courage to say, you know what? This doesn't feel good. All of these people, they're not with me right now, but they were a phone call away. They were a text message away. And I could easily go into a separate room and lock myself up and be like, I'm not feeling good right now. Prior to even having a craving, I'm not feeling good right now. I can express this. And there's nothing bad about a craving. There's nothing inherently bad about a craving. We feel like, oh my God, fuck, I'm screwing up my sobriety now because I'm having a craving. And it is just part of the experience of my previous wiring. And this is the way I feel like I need to deal with the way I'm feeling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I always wanted to stay a step ahead of it. I always wanted to stand in front of it. I wanted to be an active part of my solution rather than wait for it to hit me and then wonder what the hell happened. And so I made sure I had a plan, and I made sure that, you know, can I call you? Can I reach out during Christmas? And yes, that means I have to ask somebody, and I have to get over the anxiety of asking if somebody could be available on their holiday in case I needed help on mine. And go figure, if they're in the recovery community and they are also pretty early in their sobriety and they are also having Christmas at the same time, there is a good chance that them having the same conversation as you right now is probably helping both of you.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember that, I want to remind everybody of is anybody that is in recovery is going to understand if you need to make the phone call, and they're going to pick up, and they're not going to be upset. And there's a real good chance that a 5 or 10-minute phone call is going to be all you need. I know that, it doesn't matter what's going on. If someone calls me and just needs a few minutes, I'm going to step away from the family for a few minutes and I'm going to have that conversation, and I'm going to be glad to do it. And I think that, I speak for most of the people in the recovery world when I say we would be happy to be the person that you called if it means that we're going to help you get through that holiday.
It's an honor.
And change it. It's always an honor to be called and asked, just for an ear for a few minutes or a few pieces of wisdom. So let's talk about what Christmas and Thanksgiving and this whole season looks like for you now. We've all acknowledged the first one is hard, but it does get easier. So, and we're all at different stages in our recovery. As far as, Janice, you've got 12 years, and Kristian and Steve and I are 3 and 4 years. So we've got some holiday seasons under our belts, but what does it look like now? What makes it all worth it? And, tell us a little bit about how that looks.
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, It's amazing. It gets better and better each year. But I want to jump on two things that Steve said before I get into how happy and pretty it is. And one is the triggers. Okay, this is my social work hat. I like to look at triggers as an opportunity to identify a wound that needs to be addressed. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So if I have a craving or a trigger to drink, I mean, that's a wound that I need to address. I allow myself to table it, to be like, okay, I might have to journal, I might have to talk with someone, but I'm not going to sit in this for too long. So I like to reframe that idea. Like you said, that triggers and cravings, they're normal and they're not a reflection that you're failing. The other thing, because one of my blog articles is about what to deal with the wounds that come up, because I feel like the first couple of Christmases was about surviving and making new memories,
They
with
expose
my
those wounds,
family.
don't they?
Pardon me?
They expose those wounds a little bit, don't
Oh,
they?
they do. I mean,
Mhm.
as you settle in, I think you and I've lost my parents since I've been sober. I'm probably much older than all of y'all. So I've had a lot of loss, and sometimes those feelings come up. I struggle with grief. So one of my blog articles is how to address those wounds, how to look at them and put them in their place. But and to chalk that up to growth because for me, my recovery is an ongoing process.
Mhm.
I it's not like a one and done kind of thing. I have to continue to work on it. Now, our Christmases have changed because I've since divorced my kid's dad. I've come to, and my kids have grown up, and a couple of them moved away from home. 3 of them are married or have partners. So Christmas just looks different on that aspect. And typically, well, all of the kids, the oldest child who's married and has children is in that stage where they flip-flop between in-laws, which I'm good with because I'm okay with a smaller crowd. That's maybe I don't know if it's part of getting old or just being more comfortable. And I'm also okay when they're all here and they take that 3 or 4-hour break to go to their dad. I mean, my kids are still kind of like, "Are you okay? Is it gonna hurt your feel?" I'm like, "No," because really when they're gone, me and my brother comes every holiday, we sit back and we clean a little, we relax, we enjoy the quiet for a few hours. So it looks different, and I guess it's kinda like what all of y'all said, it's just appreciating a new normal and creating new traditions. So it does, it gets better, but things happen, things have to come up and you have to address them.
Mhm.
So, I wanna give people hope. It does get easier, and the new traditions are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that share. Because you're right. But, before you jump into it, us saying like, "Oh, it's so amazing and everything is fine," you have to work through those trigger points, the pain, whatever you got to uncover. Right? It could be like I'm very awkward socially. Like I don't know how to be me in a room. So alcohol is a quick and easy fix during the holidays, especially. And so, yeah, the more you can continuously do this and at least feel the discomfort and then start to uncover, like, put the booze aside. Like, why can't I show up to the room and have a conversation that I want to have? Or why can't I focus on a conversation? Right? When we talk about drinking, it's so chaotic, and that's why
Mhm.
Janice just said, like, yeah, it's so nice when my kids are gone and I just get to sit in peace. I'm the same way, Janice. I'm now taking so much joy in things I never imagined I would enjoy. And they are very small, simplistic things that I completely forgot about over the course of my life. And certainly after 20 years of drinking, I have 2 daughters, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. And I can tell you, the last 2 Christmases for me as a dad, like, it gives me goosebumps even saying this, has been magic. And I know I missed out on so much with my 2 gorgeous little amazing children when they were younger. I don't remember a lot of that stuff because, quite frankly, I was the same way. I was in a marriage that wasn't gonna end well, and I just was drinking a lot, and I wasn't paying attention to the reaction of my daughters as they unpeel this thing and watch their just every detail. I'm soaking it up and I'm remembering everything. That to me, it's so worth going through the pain of sobriety to get to this point, you guys. It is, I can't wait for this year for Christmas. And I started to really turn the corner where it's like I put so much more effort into my gifts that I gave to my own kids and to my family. I was like jacked to bring these gifts over to my parents' house. Now I'm like, I can't wait for them to open it. So now I've completely shifted the focus off of alcohol. I don't care. Like my dad still drinks, people drink. I don't even care. I'm engaging. I feel comfortable in a social environment. I'm playing with my girls. The whole thing is magic. And on top of that, I get a nice night's sleep. I feel great again the next morning. The momentum just continues. And so there's beauty on the other end. And I share that with you because, yeah, I've been through the sitting there like, I'm just so annoyed other people are drinking, or I feel like I can't have fun, but it's because that's all I was focusing on. And I was missing out on the beauty that's right in front of me, which is two parents that are still alive, two daughters that are getting older by the second, and I've got a couple brothers too. And it's been so nice to just sit back and observe what I may not have tomorrow. You know what I mean? Everyone's getting older and life happens. So yeah, the holidays for me now are just completely shifted, but it's because taking that first step into sobriety and addressing a lot of the other things and opens up your eyes to what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say here, like my first Christmas sober was almost like trying to figure out where my place was again. Where I sat, where I sat with everyone else. We're all in the same room. We're all doing the same thing. I'm the one doing all the feeling out. Nobody else is doing the feeling out, but it's definitely me. It's my internals trying to soak all of this stuff in, and it's like taking in new information with an old point of view, but I want to give it a new one. And so it was different. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. And it was also cool because I got to notice like the glimmer of things, and maybe this could be way better than what it ever was. And then Christmas number 2, I dealt with a lot of the crap that I went into Christmas number 1 with. And so I showed up at Christmas 2 another different version of myself, one that could tolerate things more, one that was more self-confident, one that was more engaged in the kids and less fearful of like all of the things that were happening around me. And then the Christmas 3 I was really anticipating, much like what Kristian was talking about, like anticipating being with the kids and seeing their reaction and like smiling with mom and cooking the things in the kitchen and really getting to interact and finding my part and being a part of the fun in that sort of way, and in the giving part of Christmas. And now I'm going into, was it Christmas 4? I guess it's Christmas 5 now. And I see things so much differently than I saw before, and I can't give that gift to any of you listeners, but I can say, like everyone else says, I know you probably hear over and over and over again, like it keeps getting better. If you keep putting effort into trying to find your solution, it does keep getting better and better. You see the glimmer in the eyes of the kids, and you see the connection. You can feel the connection with mom, and you can have a different kind of conversation, and I'm present, I'm there. And there's something special about just being there. I don't have to say any words. I don't have to do anything crazy or do anything outlandish. Like everything was big beforehand. And it's incredible how much like the small things now have such a great and enormous effect on how grateful I am for where I am today, and the fact that that's really what my sobriety has given me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like I would love to tell you all that my Christmases and my Thanksgivings are absolutely just more magical than they've ever been before. And that would absolutely be lying to you. First of all, both of my kids are grown up now. And so I've been going through the whole empty nesting thing at the same time as I've been going through my first 4 years of sobriety, which is hard. So we're already shifting from little kids getting up and all of the excitement of Christmas morning and stuff, right? To my oldest doesn't live at home anymore and isn't involved in the family anymore. So I'm missing one child for every holiday, which is heartbreaking. And then the youngest she's 18. She sleeps till 10 o'clock and she's happy to receive gifts, but it is not magic. Not like it used to be. I'll go get a real Christmas tree now, which is fun. And, if your teenager is willing to go hike through the snow to get a Christmas tree, by God, you're going to go do it, right? And that becomes the new tradition. So there's the flexibility and the changing of the traditions and the being willing to let things look the way they look and still just sit there in gratitude. I do still have relationships with my family. I do still have my health and my life and my sobriety. And still, even a fairly lonely Christmas is still better than a drunk Christmas of me making a fool of myself, potentially hurting somebody's feelings or saying something that I regret, and then waking up in the morning feeling full of shame. I would absolutely still pick me and my kid sitting at home playing some board games on Christmas over all of the chaos that was the Christmases when they were younger. But, Christmas for a lot of people comes with a lot of loss and a lot of pain and a lot of grief. And I think we have to acknowledge that too, that it in some ways it's great and it's magical and it makes you feel so alive and so grateful. But there's also going to be parts that are hard, and that's okay. And it's okay to take care of yourself in whatever way that needs to be to get through it. It's okay. If you're in a place of loss and you're in a place of deep sadness and grief, it's okay to not do Christmas this year. You're allowed. You don't have to do anything just because it's what you've always done. You don't have to do anything because everybody says you should. You need to make these holidays look however they need to look in order for you to be the happiest and the most joyful that you possibly can be. So I think everybody comes from a different place and different experiences and just different life situations, right? And that's going to change for everybody. Steve, your kids aren't going to be little forever, and there's going to be a day where you're like, "Oh man, this is kind of sad." Right? And that is just life. That's not sobriety. That's not, and everybody deals with that, not just people who have quit drinking. But we have to be willing to flex those expectations and move through it in whatever way that needs to look like.
You've definitely had a couple rough Christmases. And
Mhm.
that's just dealing with and accepting the new change. My Christmases look very, very different than what they looked like 5 years ago when I got sober, before I got sober, because I'm no longer with my children's mother, and I'm 1,600 miles away from where they live with her. I fly down and I spend a couple weeks down there and I spend as much time with them as I can, and I really enjoy that time. But when I leave them, it's not easy.
Mhm.
I I end up just thinking about and looking forward to the next time I actually get to spend with them. But I could think about the hurt that I'm going to feel the day that I have to say I'll see you soon, or I can really enjoy the time that I have with them. And so, I mean, it comes with the smiles and the laughter, and it also comes with a little bit of tears.
Mhm.
But that's just the way things are, and they're allowed to change and they're allowed to be different. I think this is the first time where I've had Friendsgiving, and I've had people that I love dearly that want to hang out with me like that and have me be a part of this a friends giving type event where we get together and have fun, and we start these little traditions where we get together and make a meal and play games together and do something that's fun for us, and we celebrate us as our little friends family, as opposed to just getting family together. I'm really far away from mine, and to get together and have these little traditions created is a new experience for me.
Mhm.
And it's something I look forward to now. I'm like, I wonder what we can do next, or I wonder how we can, it's something I can look forward to now, is something that we start doing.
Mhm.
And it's new and it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that it can't look different in the future. It's just really hard to be able to predict what that might look like when uh, there's a lot of change happening that, in that time I really couldn't see, but I can see that with continuous effort into the friendships and the things that are important, and it's super fruitful.
Mhm.
I just want to jump in and kind of give a PSA about that. Each of us have talked about how important our community has been to us, right? In one form or another, and the
Mhm.
community that you're developing, Kristen. That's just so exciting. I think that's why it's so important we um, have a sober community of one form or another so that we don't have to be isolated, don't have to be alone. And then to bounce back on that principle, I mean, I know if you're early in recovery, some people are like, well, I don't want to bother anyone on Christmas. I'm having a hard day. No, the truth is it helps me just as much as it helps you. It helps me. It really does. I get off the phone or walk away from coffee feeling so much better knowing that I was there for you. And also, I've learned something about myself. So never hesitate, to anyone listening, never hesitate to ask and look for your church groups or 12-step groups that have activities on the holidays where you can go and not be alone if that is a hurdle for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. And this is a really good place for Steve and I to plug the fact that we do have a virtual Monday night meeting where we get together with anyone who wants to come. And you can find all of that information on our website. But if you live somewhere where it's not possible to get together in person,
Mhm.
or, if you're more comfortable showing up on Zoom, we do have an option. We get together and we have a pretty great community there too. So I know for me, I live in a really tiny little town, and finding in-person community wasn't an option. So virtual has saved me. But yeah, for sure, check that out on our website. And we are also always happy to point everyone in directions of other groups and communities in whatever your area is. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up, but I want to finish up by asking you guys both, and in a couple of sentences, what would you say to encourage someone who's feeling anxious about heading into their holiday?
Well, my number one go-to tip is to plan ahead, prepare, and I think what you said about expectations is crucial. Not to expect the worst, to expect good things to happen, but to have plans for that, to be prepared if someone asks you an awkward question, to have that answer like, "Oh, you're not drinking." Go, "Yeah, no, not today. How are you?" Or, to change the subject. But
This
to
fizzy
have a
water
plan.
tastes great.
Yeah, yeah. Or like you said, just
Cheers,
carry a
buddy.
drink. So my number one tip is to plan ahead and have support, have a backup plan.
Definitely. Absolutely. What about you, Kristian?
Yeah, I second that. Planning ahead is key. I would also say, and this might sound a little strange, but use this as some market research for yourself. Go in with the intention of seeing how this experience is different for you. And instead of being in your own head, pay attention to other people who are drinking around you. Because I've started doing this when I went to a couple different events, and it was actually really beneficial to see the transition in each of my friends. If they had, once they had a beer in their system, and just watch what the conversations turn into, and then watch when your same buddy comes up to you for the third time and tells you the exact same story he told you not an hour ago. It puts it in perspective for you to go, "Ooh, is that how I behave? Is that really what we are having fun doing? And that's what we talk about?" It's important to actually witness that So that way you're not thinking like you already have all the information that you know what happens when you're drinking. I found that very, very neat to just see that from a different lens, and also see the people that you're closest to, if they're going to be if they're going to respect you and your decision, because
Mhm.
that's going to help you. And like Janice said, and all three of you have said, is you need community. And I'm telling you right now, I've said this to so many people, I would have been sober years ago if I got rid of the belief that I'd never find any new friends. If I had you guys and had Instagram and dialed into this years ago, I would have
Mhm.
been sobered up like that, because I'm like, you guys are amazing. And wait, you don't drink? Like, we don't have to talk about this, and you're doing amazing things. You're doing podcasts, you're doing this. It would have been amazing. And so I urge you, and it's going to be tough because certain relationships are going to crumble. I'm telling you right now. And it's a beautiful thing. It opens the door and paves the way for you to bring in the people that are supposed to be in your new sober life.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful for me. I know you guys can attest to it as well. Anybody in this community can say, yes, I've met some beautiful people. Once I actually open that door and believe that, oh, there are other people who do this, they magically start appearing, and is the coolest thing. So hold on to that. Go do your market research and find people.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. For sure. People are huge, and finding the right people are just going to change everything for you. I think for me, if there's one piece of advice, it would be plan things to look forward to. You can always set yourself up with things to look forward to in any situation, no matter what's coming. Especially if you plan ahead and get a little bit creative and try some new things. So that for me has been a really big deal, especially because my holidays have changed dramatically from year to year since I started this journey, is giving myself things intentionally to look forward to.
Yes, Julie, I mean, everyone talked about preparation. And when I thought about this, I wrote preparation cures the anxiety, and it really does help with the anxiety that you feel going into anything. But what I'm going to finish this off with is give 50% of your energy to the positive. It's so easy to give 50, 90, 80% of your energy to the negative of what's going to happen. Our brain always does this to protect ourselves. But if you're telling yourself a story that this is going to go horrible, try and remember that I need to give half of my energy to this going well. So at least you're given some respect to it, because it never goes as bad as we think it does. I want to thank you, Janice, and thank you, Kristian, for spending time with us, sharing your hearts and sharing your thoughts. Really hope this goes a long way to helping a lot of people. Either way, if it helps one person, it's worth it. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was
Thanks for
awesome.
having me.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate you both. Thank you so much.